The initial roster for Marvel Rivals is insane. It features over 30 characters, but it wouldn't be YouTube if we weren't asking for more. Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is the place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. So like everyone, and probably you watching this video, I've been spending a lot of time playing Marvel Rivals over the past couple days. Fun, there's a lot of great characters, it spotlights new characters people may not be familiar with, like if you look at Jeff the Landshark, his first appearance is shot up over $500, people are calling him a terrorist, that he's broken, same thing with Iron Fist, it's just fun. Video games, I think, are best when everyone's complaining because that means it's balance. I know people are going to be like, balance? Seriously, man? But, hey, it reminds me of OG Overwatch when there were a bunch of fun characters that had broken abilities and we could all just, turn our brains off and have fun. And before, everyone became, a professional gamer and is looking to clip you. But, hey, no complaints. I'm loving Marvel Rivals. And with that love, I've been thinking about potential characters that could join the roster. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to put in some characters, thinking about what their role would be in the game. Let me know what you think by liking, commenting who you would add to the roster, or if you think my ideas are completely off base and I need to stop playing the game. Get into it. First, we're going to add Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. I would make him a vanguard because there aren't that many vanguards. And if you're going to put Doctor Strange as a vanguard, I think you could get away with Ghost Rider as a vanguard. Some people will probably say he's a duelist, but I would like to sort of think of him as almost a Roadhog-like character where you can close the gaps with his chains, his hooks that he uses. Also, because he is the spirit of vengeance and there's magic, you could put up force fields, use his fire to kind of have long distance attacks. He'd be a fun character add, and I think, his place in the Marvel Universe is very interesting. He appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's been a part of the mainline Avengers team, but I don't think he's quite had that moment, and I think he needs a kind of Jeff the Landshark type moment where you just make him broken, so that everyone's playing him and then everyone goes to read his comics, which are amazing, and I wish more people did. You definitely have to check out his initial run, and also, if you're excited about Secret Wars, his Secret Wars miniseries was amazing. It was like Death Race with all the Ghost Riders. I know I'm talking about the comics more than the game, but I just have to present my case as to why I love Robbie Reyes, and I think he should be the first person they add to the Marvel Rivals roster. Next, Daredevil. Come on. It's crazy that he wasn't a part of the initial roster. I think because he's probably a hard character to kind of nail, especially with his abilities, because that radar ability, the only thing I could quite think of is like if you've played Overwatch, Widowmaker has that thing where she could see enemies behind walls and stuff like that. So I think his radar could kind of be like that. You could use his Billy Club like the way Venom and Spider-Man use their traversal. So he'd be an interesting character. Obviously, you could kind of make him have hands like Iron Fist. But he'd be a hard character to kind of like nail ability wise. So despite his popularity, I can see why maybe they didn't add him to the initial roster. But with his new show coming out and how popular his character is and his place in the Marvel Universe, I think that he is someone that they have to add, and I think they'll eventually get to him. Okay, I think this is a character on all of our minds, and this has probably been said before, but we definitely have to add Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer would be so dope, especially being able to ride around on his board. I would make him a strategist because he has his cosmic powers that were given to him by Galactus. So he can heal other characters. He could do blasts, and obviously he has his way of getting around on his board. I don't know if I can think of anything else in terms of his abilities, but it's just like some characters, like it's a video game. Like it should just be dope. Like how many times do you get to really play as the Silver Surfer in anything? He's not going to get his own game. We're getting Fantastic Four First Steps, and we're getting a different interpretation of Silver Surfer in that movie. So it'd be cool to play Norrin Rad in the game and be able to do something different. So yeah, I think Silver Surfer is an easy addition to the Marvel Rivals roster. We've done a couple heroes. I would definitely throw in a villain like Green Goblin, because now I talked about Silver Surfer. got someone on a board. Why not someone on a glider like Green Goblin? And then you have pumpkin bombs. I'd make him a duelist. Like he's just so chaotic. You can have a lot of fun. I made a video about like if DC made Marvel Rivals, and I talked about how the Joker could kind of be like a Junkrat type character. And I think with Green Goblin, you can make him very similar to that too, especially with his pumpkin bombs, just some of his voice lines and how chaotic he could be. It would be cool to see how him and Spider-Man interact. Despite them being villains, it would be cool if they have a team-up ability. This may sound redundant, but Spider-Man, Miles Morales, I think Miles would be cool because he has enough different abilities to make him different than Peter Parker. So Peter in the game, obviously really cool duelist, but if you have Miles in it, you have the invisibility, you have his Venom Strike, so developers could really play around with how you tackle a Miles in the game. Like, yes, he may have like the web sling. I don't know if I'd put the web sling just to, have some differentiation from Peter Parker, but like there's enough with Miles in terms of his abilities to put him in without it feeling like a reskin, which I think sometimes with characters that share the same name, they do that. I love playing the Injustice games, but what kind of sucks is sometimes they'll put like one character, like, but if they have similar abilities, they'll kind of just make them like a reskin. Whereas like, they had like Raiden be like Black Lightning or something like that. Like, I don't want that for Marvel Rivals. I think, that's just really dumb. And there's an opportunity to highlight a character like Miles, who's incredibly popular, who has his own movie, who's been featured in games. Like, I think Miles is a character that, as much as I'm putting him on a wish list, I know it's only a matter of time before he's actually in the game. And now the game has a lot of mutant representation and X-Men. We've got Wolverine, you've got Magic, you've got Storm, but you don't have the leader of the X-Men, which is Cyclops. Like, I would love to have Cyclops in the game. He'd be a duelist, obviously, because he has his optic blast. And then also I think he'd be a cool addition because like he had a good year this year. People were sort of reminded like, hey, like Cyclops is pretty awesome because of the movies. Like, he always got punked by Wolverine and still does sometimes, but it was cool to kind of see people think like Cyclops is cool. And I think there would be a lot of cool ways to introduce his optic blast, like how he can move around. Like I said duelist, but he could also be a strategist, like, because his optic blast can move things around. I wonder if it could maybe potentially power up other characters. And strategist, he is the leader of the X-Men. So, if Rocket Raccoon could be a strategist, I think you could figure out a way to make Cyclops a strategist, especially with his leadership capabilities. Now, while we're on the X-Men tip, why don't we go to Deadpool? Now, Deadpool is another character that I thought like, wow, like he's not in the game. Considering Deadpool and Wolverine came out this last summer, he's one of the more popular Marvel characters of the last 25 years. Obviously, has a huge franchise behind him. He'd be a duelist, being able to use his katanas if they really wanted to get crazy with it. He could use his teleportation ability from the comics, especially since you don't have a character like Nightcrawler in the game yet. You could kind of play around with that. Like I used to love doing that in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. And then you can also kind of play around with team up abilities. I know Wolverine already has one with the Hulk, but it'd be cool to see them sort of have one too. There's a lot of X-Men characters in this game. So next, I would put in Colossus. Now, Colossus is the original character that did the fastball special with Wolverine. So that is a clear connection, but also he's the brother of Magic. So, and the game does not have too many vanguards, and I think having someone like Colossus, you could do that. Or, now that I'm thinking about it, you could also throw in Juggernaut.
Yeah, it's the Juggernaut, bitch!
Juggernaut would be an awesome vanguard now that I think about it. So you know what? Let's just drop Colossus. Like, just because you can't do the fastball special since they gave that to the Hulk, let's get Juggernaut in there. Let's give Juggernaut some love. You know what I mean? He would be a really cool vanguard to kind of have around and really sort of lead the charge and take in a lot of damage. And really, he could have, I think, like his ult will be very similar to Winston's in Overwatch, where you kind of clear, the point. yeah, so that would be a really fun character. And ever he had a like, you know, we didn't see him in X-Men 97, and I feel like when he appeared in Deadpool, it kind of was like a joke, so it'd be cool to kind of have him be spotlighted again. If you've played Marvel Rivals, you'll know why I'm going to put in this next character, despite, again, me saying like, hey, I'm focusing on too many X characters, but we kind of need it, you know? So Jean Grey, I would make her a strategist because, again, no one likes playing strategists. And also, you got to give the game more popular strategists. So if you have Jean Grey, who's a part of the X-Men, who was the Phoenix and has been a part of big movies and things like that, I think you would have people playing more strategists and more healers. Like, you have Luna Snow, who's a new character, and people don't really know her. So it'd be interesting. And I know, like, from leaks that we might possibly get Sue Storm, who could possibly be the strategist. It's going based on sort of like what I would like to add, and I think, you know, her obviously having like force fields and being a telepath. I wonder, like, with her ult, like, you could possibly bring in the Phoenix Force, which would be awesome. So as I say that, I know I'm building really X-Men Rivals, but I just can't help myself. I love the X-Men, and I'm sure you do. Like, look behind me, there's a Magneto helmet, so you can see why I love the X-Men. This is another character that I was kind of surprised was not featured in the game, considering they have almost every other member of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the game. Like Drax, like, where's Drax? You have Rocket, you have Star-Lord, you have Groot, you have Mantis, so we need Drax, and then obviously Gamora. But I think Drax could be a really interesting Vanguard. You can make him much bigger than sort of he's portrayed, have his blades, you know, he did fight Thanos. In Drax, you could kind of figure out how to, you know, you could do a special ability with Star-Lord or Mantis, you know, pick your poison with that character. But I do think, you know, you should feature characters that, especially with the Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like they culturally, that first movie had such an impact, not just on movies but video games. You see every video game trying to copy or capture that vibe or that 80s space punk kind of vibe. And I think it would be cool to kind of have the whole roster, because you only really need to have like 6 of those roster spots there. And, you know, if you start out with 33, I think there's space for a character like Drax eventually when you do like bundles or, you know, whatever event is coming. And I think, and something I didn't say about the list before I got started was I'm trying to avoid adding like any like Avengers level threat villains, because I feel like that's what they're going to do for like big events to kind of get people into like the season passes or the battle passes. And I think if they eventually get to a Thanos one, they'll probably add characters like Gamora or Drax. So Drax is a fun character, and I think really adds a really interesting element to the roster. Again, everyone is a damn duelist, and it's kind of annoying sometimes, but like I said, people are having fun. Like, I like, you know, playing Iron Fist, and I have no idea like, I don't care what the composition of the team is. I'm gonna pick Iron Fist, so I don't care. But when I'm building this roster, I'm trying to sprinkle in some more like vanguards and strategists, so that it will tempt me to not always pick Iron Fist. Wanda's in the game, the Scarlet Witch, and if you're gonna have the Scarlet Witch, why not Agatha Harkness? You can make her a strategist. She just had a popular TV series. There aren't too many magic users in the game, and I think magic in the Marvel universe is kind of weird. Like, but you have. So you would have magic, actual magic, Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and now Agatha Harkness. So, I mean, that's fair enough. That's a pretty good. But I think, you know, having another strategist like Agatha would be really helpful. Like I said, there aren't too many. We need healers. We need healers. I think she would use like her dark magic to control things and be able to heal the rest of the team, because even Wanda is like a duelist, which is insane. Now you got to have Wanda's husband, which is Vision. Vision would be really cool, especially sort of floating around, and then also he could phase through walls. He'd be a really interesting character to kind of add. Like, I think he'd be like a little bit of a mix of like Adam Warlock, like in terms of the way he moves around. And then he could also use his Mind Stone to shoot laser beams. Like that'd be cool. But again, if they eventually put Cyclops in it, I don't know how useful that will be. Or composition of the roster, it'd be really cool to have those characters complement each other, like a Scarlet Witch, Vision, Agatha, because you could play around with the special power-ups, the abilities, and you can make people make teams and rosters of just certain sections of the Marvel universe. Like you could have like a WandaVision type team, you could have the X-Men, you could have the Guardians of the Galaxy, you could have kind of a Spider-Verse one. Because Venom is in the game, like it'd be cool to have Carnage. And Carnage's abilities, I would think, like, I would love for him to move around the map a lot like Jeff the Land Shark, where, like, he just goes into a puddle-like symbiote and just moves around and just comes out and just slashes you up like crazy. I think his symbiote should move a little bit like Iron Fist. Like when you attack with Carnage, it should be relentless. Like it should just be a bunch of different, like, oh, you could even put in that weird tornado he did in the actual Let There Be Carnage movie. Like that would be a crazy special ability. In terms of like his class, duelist, like every character in this game at this point. But that would be a really cool addition and something really scary, and I think gives him something different. Like talking about Miles, I talked about the fact that he's different enough from Peter, and I think Carnage is different enough from Venom that you can really sort of play around with his abilities where it doesn't feel like a reskin or is like, oh, like another symbiote, come on. So, and he's a popular enough a character that well, at least when I was growing up, Carnage was huge. He's still kind of huge, but I think like he hasn't had the best representation like in media. Like Let There Be Carnage, the movie was to a lot of people not the best. I do love those Venom movies, but I think Carnage was so scary when I was a kid. There's the Maximum Carnage event, so I think it's a character that I think could use some love. I talked about Daredevil. Another street level Marvel hero that we're going to talk about is Luke Cage, and now he would be a vanguard for sure. He's bulletproof, got bulletproof skin, is huge, can really like clear out the point. But in reality, I'm just putting him in this game so I can see him with Iron Fist. Now, Iron Fist is not Danny Rand, the typical team up that you would see with Luke Cage, but still, I play Iron Fist, and I think that we haven't had a proper Heroes for Hire team up in so long. It'll be cool to see them actually have that team up ability. Like, I'm not even that interested in playing Luke Cage in the game. I just want to see Luke Cage and Iron Fist Heroes for Hire in a Marvel video game. So I'm just putting him in just to see that, and also to see Luke. Like, hey, like I haven't seen Luke in a while. Now, that's my roster of characters I would love to see in Marvel Rivals. Now, that's just an initial roster, and I kind of put it together thinking of who adds an interesting element to the game that will allow it to be a little bit more balanced. Now, what did you think of my Marvel Rivals dream roster of people to add? Did you like it? Did you like the classes? Like I said, I play it for fun and have people step away from their comfort zone. Hopefully you don't hate me for maining Iron Fist, and maybe we can play sometime. But let me know what you think of the video in the comments. Like, subscribe, and peace.